All right, let's look at our practice test. So we're told to factor each. And for the first problem, we're going to be looking at x cubed plus 5x squared plus 5x plus 25. So what we're going to be doing here is using the factoring by grouping method. The first thing you want to do is check to see if your greatest common factor for these four terms here, if it's not 1, then you want to pull it out. In this case, it is 1, so we're going to skip that. The next thing you always want to do is put this into two groups where two terms are in each group, and you want to try to pull out the GCF from that group and see if you have a common binomial factor. If you do, great, pull it out. If you don't, you probably need to switch the terms. In some cases, you'll have something that's prime, and so when that occurs, it doesn't matter how you rearrange things, you won't be able to factor the guy. So what I want to do here is just make the first two into a group. So I'll say x cubed plus 5x squared. That's the first group. Second group, let's go 5x plus 25. Then go ahead and pull out the GCF from each group. So in this group, if I look at x cubed and 5x squared, it would be x squared. So if I pull that out, inside I would have x plus 5. Then from here, if I pull out the greatest common factor, it's just going to be 5. So that's going to be 5 times the quantity. Inside it'll be x plus 5. So what you see here is that you have a common binomial factor. So this guy and this guy, okay, common binomial factor. So you can pull that out. So I'd have x plus 5 that's pulled out. And what's left inside is the x squared. So the x squared and then plus the 5. Always check to make sure that you don't have any other factoring that you can do. In some cases, you'll catch some additional factoring that you need to do, and you want to factor completely. But that's not our case here, so we're just going to report our answer as the quantity x plus 5 times the quantity x squared plus 5. Okay, let's look at the second problem. So we have this 9x cubed plus 3x squared plus 15x plus 5. My greatest common factor between the four terms is 1, so you don't have to do anything there. Just arrange this into two groups with two terms in each group. And so I'm just going to pick the first two, so 9x cubed plus 3x squared. Say that's a group. Second two will be a group. So this won't always work. As you work more problems, you'll be able to eyeball things and very quickly determine if it's going to work out the way that it's originally listed. If it's not, again, you need to start rearranging things. So from this first group, I can pull out a 3x squared. So I can pull out a 3x squared. Inside, I'm going to have a 3x plus a 1. And then plus from this group, I can pull out a 5. Inside, I would have a 3x plus a 1. So you can see that you have this common binomial factor of 3x plus 1. So you're just going to pull that out in front of some parentheses. So 3x plus 1. And then what's left inside? The 3x squared plus the 5. Always check for additional factoring. You don't have any. So my answer is the quantity 3x plus 1 times the quantity 3x squared plus 5. Okay, let's look at problem number 3. So we have 4x cubed minus 10x squared plus 6x minus 15. What is the GCF? Well, again, it's 1. So let me look at this guy again. From just eyeballing it, I know it'll work with the first two and the last two. So let's go 4x cubed minus 10x squared. And then plus, we'll have this 6x minus 15 like this. And again, from the first group, what can I pull out? Well, I can pull out a 2x squared. So 2x squared. Inside, I'm going to have 2x and then minus, you're going to have your 5. And then plus, from this group right here, I can pull out a 3. So just a 3. And inside, this would be 2x and then minus 5. So again, I have my common binomial factor of 2x minus 5. Again, if this is being pulled outside, you'll have your 2x minus 5 times the quantity 2x squared. That's going to be from here. Then plus your 3. That's going to be from there. So again, check for additional factoring. 2x minus 5, that quantity, times the quantity 2x squared plus 3. All right, let's look at problem number 4. So we have 5xy minus 3x plus 25y minus 15. So the greatest common factor, again, if you look at these four terms, it's going to be 1. So you could skip that. In this case, even though you have two variables, you can still just take the first two as a group and the last two as a group. We don't need to rearrange anything. So 5xy minus 3x. And then plus, you'll have 25y minus 15. So from the first group, I can pull out just x. That's all I can do. So I pull out an x. Inside, let me make this more legible. Inside, I would have 5y minus 3. Then plus, over here, I can pull out a 5. Inside, I would have 5y minus 3. Again, I have a common binomial factor of 5y minus 3. So if we pull that out, so 5y minus 3, inside, we would have what? You'd have x, and then plus, you'd have a 5. So again, I always check for additional factoring just to make sure I didn't miss anything. We have the quantity 5y minus 3 times the quantity x plus 5 as our answer. All right, let's look at problem number 5. So we're going to have 60xy minus 96x minus 90y plus 144. So what's the GCF here? Well, it's going to be 6. So I can pull that out to start. Again, if you miss this and you don't pull it out, when you get to your final step, you'll have a common factor of 6 that needs to come out. And if you miss that, your teacher may mark it wrong on your test. So that's why I always say check for additional factoring. You always want to make that last check and see, is there anything else I can pull out? That way, if you missed it here, you can catch it in the end and still get the right answer. But I'm going to go ahead and pull that out now. So we'll have 10xy minus, this would be 16x minus 15y. And then plus, we'll have 24. Okay. So inside now, I think we could speed this up a little bit. From the first group, I'm just going to pull out, if you have 10 and 16, I could pull out a 2. And then I could pull out an x. So I would have what? I would have 5y, and then minus, you would have your 16 divided by 2 is 8. X over x is 1. So 5y minus 8, that quantity. All right, then for the next part, I've got to match the sign. So I want the first one to be positive and the second one to be negative. So I can do that by pulling out the negative of the GCF. So this is where you want to change things. So instead of pulling out the 3, I'm going to pull out a negative 3. So you can put plus negative 3 or just minus 3. That's what pretty much everyone does. And then inside now you would have a 5y. Again, negative 3 times positive 5y would be negative 15y. And then you're going to put a minus here because negative times negative will give you that plus back. And then 3 times 8 would give you 24. So negative 8 is what you want there. So you see you have that common binomial factor of 5y minus 8. So in some cases, you've got to pull out the negative of the GCF. So the GCF there was 3. The negative of that's what you got to pull out so you can make it match. Okay, so here we have 6 times the quantity. I'm going to have this 5y minus 8 times the quantity 2x minus 3. So as I always say, check for additional factoring. Again, if you messed up at the beginning, you didn't pull the GCF out, here's where you can catch it and save your answer. So we get 6 times the quantity 5y minus 8 times the quantity 2x minus 3. All right, let's look at problem number 6. So we have 48xy plus 42x squared plus 40y plus 35x. The GCF here is 1. And the way you can tell really quickly is 35 is 5 times 7. Well, 48 is not divisible by 5 or 7, so you can just stop, okay? So the GCF is 1. So then what I want to do again is just look at the grouping. So in this particular case, I can go with the first 2 and the last 2. That's still going to work. And the next one, we'll see we have to switch it. So from the first 2, I could pull out a 6x. And then inside, this would be 8y. And then plus, you would have 7x. And then from here, it looks like I can pull out a 5. So let me put that there. Inside, I would have my 8y plus. I would have my 7x. So you have your common binomial factor of 8y plus 7x, like this. Go ahead and pull that out. So you're going to have your 8y plus your 7x, that quantity, times the quantity 6x plus 5. Again, always check for additional factoring, see if you missed anything. We don't see anything, so our quantity 8y plus 7x times our quantity 6x plus 5 is the answer. All right, let's look at problem number 7. So here we will have to actually rearrange terms. We have 60xy minus 112a squared plus 140xa minus 48ay. Okay, so first off, what's the GCF? Everything is even here, so I know it's at least 2. And if I look at all the numbers, again, the final 2 digits of the number, if that forms a number that's divisible by 4, it's divisible by 4. So this guy, 12 is divisible by 4, so is 40, and so is 48. So everything would also be divisible by 4. So let's go ahead and pull that out. That would give me 15xy minus 28a squared plus 35xa, and lastly minus 12ay. Okay, let's close that down. Now, when you look at the grouping, again, normally we just take the first 2 and then the last 2, and that works. In this case, it's not going to. If you look at 15 and you look at 28, well, there's really nothing in common. This is 5 times 3, and this is 7 times 4. And then if you look at the variables, this is xy, and this is a squared. So that doesn't work at all. Here you have xa, and you have ay. So you could pull an a out, but look at what you would have left. You would have x for a variable, and then you would have y, and you'd be stuck here with x, y, and a squared. Now, also 35 and 12, if you think about that, this is 5 times 7, and this is 4 times 3. So really, it's just a mess in terms of what you have the ordering now. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I get my variables right. That's what I always check. So I want to see, this has an a and this has an a. and this has a y and this has a y. So I want these to be next to each other, because what's going to end up happening is the y is going to factor out, and I'll have an a in one and an x in another. Then if I look at these two being next to each other, well, one of the a's, this is going to be a left, and the a here is going to be gone. So I'd have an a in one, and I'd have just an x in the other. Again, if the y comes out, I have an a in one and an x left in the other. So you're going to rearrange things in that way. Again, this is just from practice. That's how I'm able to do this, from eyeballing it. As soon as you work a lot of problems, you'll be able to do this as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and put these next to each other. I'm going to put 4 times the quantity. I'll say 15xy, and then I'll go minus 12ay, and then let's go plus. I'm going to keep this in the same order, so I'm going to go 35xa like this, and then minus, I'm going to go 28a squared like this. Okay, so let's go ahead and put 4 here. From the first group, I can see that I can pull out a 3y. So let's pull that out. If I pulled out a 3y, what's left? 15 divided by 3 is 5. Then y over y is 1, so I'm just left with the x. Then minus 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then you'd have the a, and y divided by y is 1. So over here, go plus. What can I pull out here? Well, it looks like a 7a. So let's go 7a, then times this quantity inside 35 divided by 7. Let me make this a better. 35 divided by 7 is 5. xa over a is just going to be x. Then minus 28 divided by 7 is 4. A squared divided by a is a. So you can see that we do have a common binomial factor now of 5x minus 4a. Okay, so that can be pulled out now. So let's put equals here. Scroll down and get some room. So we'll have 4 times the quantity. We'll have 5x minus 4a. And then times the quantity, 3y plus 7a. So again, I always check for additional factoring. We don't see any. So our answer here is 4 times the quantity 5x minus 4a times the quantity 3y plus 7a. All right, let's look at problem number 8. So we have 64x squared y plus 80x squared m plus 128x cubed plus 40xmy. So what is the GCF? Well, notice that everything has an x here. So you can pull out one of those. You put equals. I'm going to put that out in front. And then if I think about it, 64, 80, 128, 40, everything's divisible by 8. So let me pull that out as well. So inside here, I would have 8xy, and then plus I'm going to have 10xm, and then plus I'm going to have 16x squared, and then plus I'll have 5my. Okay, so I pulled out an 8x from each term. Okay, so let's think about the variables. Again, if you're trying to get the grouping right, if I go with the first two, let's think about the fact that x is going to get pulled out, and you'd have y plus m. Well, over here, I have x squared and I have my. So that's not going to work, right? Because I would have x squared plus my. I'm just thinking about the variable part. So that will not work. So I want to arrange this in such a way to where I have an x plus m. So it looks like these two and these two. So if we do this, we'll have 8x times, I'll put my 8xy plus my 5my like this. Let's get rid of that. Then plus, I'll go ahead and say 16x squared, then plus 10xm like this. Close that down. Okay, let's come down here a little bit and see what we got inside. So I'm going to put this over here. So 8x times the quantity. From the first group, I can pull out a y. Okay, so I'll pull out a y, and I'll have 8x plus 5m. From the second group, I can pull out a 2x, and so I'll have 8x plus 5m. So I have achieved my common binomial factor of this 8x plus 5m. So let's pull that out. We'll have the 8x out in front, and then inside, what we're going to have is 8x plus 5m, and then times, we're going to have this y plus 2x. So again, always check for additional factoring. We don't have any. So we'll have 8x times the quantity 8x plus 5m times the quantity y plus 2x. Okay, let's look at problem number 9. So we have 196xy minus 48n squared minus 56xn plus 168ny. All right, so the GCF here would be 4. Everything's divisible by 2. And then also it would be divisible by 4. If you look at 68, 56, 48, and 96, those are all also divisible by 4. And so let's go ahead and pull that out. 196 divided by 4 is 49, so this would be 49xy. Then minus 48 divided by 4 is 12, so 12n squared. Then minus 56 divided by 4 is 14, so 14xn. And plus 168 divided by 4 is 42, so 42ny. So let's bring this down here. Let's see if it works in order. I don't think it does. So this one, you would have for variables x, y, and then n squared. Let me make that more clear. I think that's probably not legible. And I don't know why I have problems with n, so let me try to make this as cleanly as I can. So n squared, okay. And this one would be, we have xn and ny. The n could come out, you'd have x and y. So x plus y here, and then over here you'd have xy minus n. That would not work at all. So we need to switch the order here. So let's go ahead and say, if we group these two together, you could pull out an n, and so you'd have n plus y. And then if you group these two together, then you could pull out an x, and you'd have y minus n. So it looks like that's what we want. We may have to play with the signs. Haven't really looked at it yet. Well, let's see what we get. So we have 4 times the quantity. Again, I'm going to put 49xy, and then plus we'll go 42ny. And then we're going to go minus 12n. Let me make that n better. Having trouble with that. So n squared minus 14xn. Let's scroll down a little bit and get some room going. So let's put our 4 here. From the first group, I can pull out 7y. So let's pull that out. I forgot my y, so 7y. Inside, you would have 49 divided by 7 is 7. Xy over y is x. Then plus 42ny divided by 7y. 42 divided by 7 is 6. Ny over y is n. Then here, this is where you need to play with the signs because these are both positive. So let me pull out a negative here. So put minus. And I can pull out a 2n. So what I'm going to have here is both of these are going to be positive because I'm pulling out a negative. So this would be 6n and then plus 7x. Now, if you look at this guy and this guy, they're the same. It's just they're not in the right order, right? And remember, when you add things because of the commutative property, you could change the order. You can change that now or you can just swap it around. It really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that you report your answer as the same. So you can take an additional step or you can just erase this and say this is 7x plus the 6n like this. It's really up to you how you want to show that. But at the end of the day, you're going to pull this common binomial factor out, okay, the 7x plus the 6n. So you would have 4 out in front, then the 7x plus the 6n, that quantity, then times the quantity 7y minus 2n, and you're basically good to go. Check for additional factoring. You don't have any, so you have 4 times the quantity 7x plus 6n times the quantity 7y minus 2n. Let's look at problem number 10. So we have 14y squared xc plus 24y cubed f minus 56y squared xf minus 6y cubed c. So it looks like my GCF here would be 2 for the number part, and then everything has a y squared, so let me pull that out. So 2y squared, so you'd have 7 and then xc, and then plus you would have 12 and then yf, and then minus you would have 28, you would have xf, and then minus you would have 3yc. Okay, let's close that down. So let's see what we can get into here. Again, we're probably going to have to rearrange stuff. So if I look at the first two, you have xc and yf. Nothing really going to happen there. Here you have xf and yc. Nothing going to happen there. So let's get this guy and this guy next to each other. So I could pull out the f and I'd have y and x. And if this guy and this guy was next to each other, I could pull out the c and then I would have x and then y. So I probably have to change the ordering or the signs or something like that, but it looks like that's what I want. Okay, so let's go through and put that we have 2y squared. And again, I'm going to write these two next to each other. So let me go 7, I'll go xc, and then minus 3yc, like this. And then let me put these two next to each other. And I'll go ahead and just switch the order so it comes out correct. So minus 28xf, and then plus 12yf. If you look at it now, you're going to end up with your x and your y. If you pull out the f here, you'll have your x and your y. So everything should work fine. Okay, let's do this, and let's come down here and see what we can do. So from the first group, let me write my 2y squared. From the first group, I can pull out a c. So pull out the c, and you'll have 7, you'll have x, and then minus, you'll have 3y. From the second group, you can pull out a negative 4f. So inside, that's going to give you 7x. And then you're going to have minus, right? Because again, minus times minus or negative times negative will give you that positive back. So then I'm going to have minus, we'll have the 3y. So you can see you do have this common binomial factor of 7x minus 3y, okay, in each case. So let's go through here and put equals. And let's go and say we have 2y squared times the quantity. We're going to have this 7x minus 3y. Then times the quantity c minus 4f, like this. So this is our answer. Again, you always want to check for additional factoring. This is a guard against you missing something in the beginning, okay? If you factor out the GCF in the beginning, you don't have to worry about this. But again, a lot of people miss it, so this is a chance to get all your points. So we don't have anything to factor out. We have 2y squared times the quantity 7x minus 3y times the quantity c minus 4f.